You may know the story. I'm not sure if you do, but God's people, the Israelites, they'd been slaves in Egypt for 400 years. 400 years. And then God raises up Moses and says, I have more for my people. In fact, I got so much more that I am creating this space called the Promised Land. It literally is like the land of more. More than they could even imagine. So God miraculously sets them free from slavery. And then there's story and there's years of them going through struggles before they get to the Promised Land. But then we get to the part of the story where they're literally stepping into the Promised Land. But that Promised Land was still filled with some fortified enemy positions that they were going to have to be displaced in order for them to fully inherit what God had given them. And there's a lot of story there about in faith stepping out, moving forward into the more that God has for us. Well, in this situation, it was like literally a physical thing that they had to do to confront the enemy who wanted to take them out, to take out God's people. And the very first fortified city they come to in the Promised Land, it was the city of Jericho. And God said, I'm going to help you to defeat the enemy here. I'm going to help you. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to destroy everything. There was a certain amount of things that was like being preserved for God's house. Those, like gold and silver and things like that. It was like, that's for me. But you are to take nothing for yourselves. I destroy it all, preserve some for my house. But you, on this first expedition into the Promised Land, you are not to take anything for yourselves. And so the battle goes on. God provides this unbelievable miracle to allow them to have this stunning victory. God literally breaks the walls of the city down so that there was no more fortification, and Israel comes in and there's this great stunning victory. But then they go on to the next battle, one that they should have easily won, because it was like this small little group, and it was like, hey, Moses, we don't even need to send all the army over there because it's going to be so easy. You know what happens? Israel is not only defeated, but a bunch of guys lose their lives. It was it was terrifying for Israel because wait a second, we just conquered this fortified city, and now we go to this little group, this little ragtag group, and they turn us on our heels. They're killing our people. It was terrible, and it filled Israel with fear. And God, what is going on? Did you just take us out here to your Promised Land to kill us off? What's going on? And God says, no. Someone disobeyed me. Back in Jericho. Do you remember when I said, do not take anything for yourself? See, God wanted to show that he had more for his people. That they were not supposed to take more that he did not have for them. I have more for you, but you can't take your own more. But someone did. And so they go through this whole process of discernment, and they come to this one guy. His name was Achan. Achan had stolen some things from Jericho and taken them for himself. And when he's found out, he doesn't come to the front and say, it was me. They have to go through this discerning process, and it's you. And he's like, yes, it's me. I want you to listen to his confession. It's in the book of Joshua, chapter 7, verse 20 and 21. Achan replied, it's true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. Among the plunder, I saw a beautiful robe from Babylon, 200 silver coins, and a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. I coveted them. That's a strong word right there. There's this whenever you think about that word covet, it's not a word we use all the time. We typically use the word greed, right? He was consumed with a greed that overtook him. I coveted them and took them. They are hidden in the ground beneath my tent, and the silver buried deeper than the rest. Listen, don't we do the same thing? Like we quickly forget all that God has done to give us more. And when that happens, just like it did to Achan right here, we fall into the pit of entitlement. Forgetfulness always leads to entitlement. Thinking, I deserve that. Like Achan was like, dude, I'm this conquering soldier. Look what we just did. Look what I just did. He forgets what God did. And that immediately, when we forget what God does, it immediately takes us into this trap of entitlement. Where we think, ooh, that shiny object, that belongs to me. It's like what happened to David. That belongs to me. I'm entitled. I deserve that. And he forgot what God had done. God, like literally, in the years before, had set his family free from 400 years of slavery. They were no longer slaves. Chalk that up for God. God has done more for Achan. He forgot that he was literally standing in the promised land. Right then, when this happened, his feet were already in the place that God had said, this is your inheritance because I have so much more for you that you can't even imagine. Boom. He forgot that he was standing in the promised land. He forgot so much. Man, he forgot that like moments before, God had done this incredible miracle to tear down those walls to allow him free entry into that space. But he forgot. And so, very mistakenly, he started operating with entitlement that I deserve those shiny things. Those are for me. There's always a pattern here. Go ahead, can you put those 3 points up on the screen? Let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, there's 3 things. Here's this pattern. We forget what God has done. Like it's not that he didn't do it, it's just we're not thinking about it. It's not that God hasn't blessed us, but we're not thinking about that blessing. We're not thinking about all he's done. And then what happens is then we slip into entitlement. It's like the enemy of our soul is waiting for us to forget. And when we forget, he begins to lie to us about, ooh, look at that shiny object, look at that thing. You deserve that thing. And so we slip into this spirit, this lie of entitlement, the trap of entitlement. And then what ends up happening is that when we feel entitled to something, then greed takes over. Just like it did for Achan, just like it did for King David. And we take that which God has not given us. It is not the more of the Lord. It's the more that we see and that we want. And it always follows this pattern. You can follow it all the way back to the book of Genesis. You can follow it all the way back to Adam and Eve. God gave them so much more, right? Like even when he created Adam and God looks and says, oh man, that's not good. I need to give you more. I'm going to create Eve to be this complement and helper for you on your journey, that together you get to experience all the beauty, literally, of perfection. Like the perfect world. No sin, no sickness, only beauty, love, intimacy. I have more for you. Somehow they forgot. I don't know, maybe like us, maybe Adam and Eve, like they got so used to the blessing. They got so used to the perfection. They got so used to the beauty, the love, that they just assumed, oh, this is always going to be here. And so they forgot what God had literally done for them. And then so once they forgot, the enemy was able to come in and begin to lie, start sowing these seeds of entitlement. Yo, Eve, what? God doesn't want you to have this? And so that fruit that that they ate of together was taken in greed because of the spirit of entitlement. They forgot. If they were thinking about everything that they had, it's like, get out of here, Satan, right? Get out of here, serpent. I'm not going to listen to your lies. But when we forget, we can always fall into this pattern, and we see it over and over and over again, and we see it even in our lives. And that job that was a gift from the Lord to put provision in your account for you, for your family, for your others, to spread in generosity, right? That gift, all of a sudden we forget that it's a gift. And so, man, when something starts going wrong, when somebody that's above us starts, I don't know, making our life a little uncomfortable, things go awry, people we're trying to lead, right? Our customers we're trying to serve, they don't appreciate me, they don't know what all I'm doing here. And we forget, no, God gave us this job as a gift to provide for us. And so what ends up happening, we start getting entitled. I don't have to work this hard. They're not paying me enough to take this. Right, and whatever. But I mean, and then what do? We greedily begin, right, to take what doesn't belong to us. Maybe that even just shows up in being lazy. I'm not going to work that hard. And so we take time that should have been devoted to working on our job. Right? We just begin to get greedy because of the spirit of entitlement, because we forgot. What about our families? Right? These gifts that God has given us, people that he's entrusted to walk in relationship and life with. And then when things start to go a little challenging with that child or with our spouse, maybe even with a parent, right? We forget that, no, these are people that God has gifted to us to walk through life with together. I'm not saying that we don't go through challenges, but what ends up happening is when those challenges hit, so often we forget what God has done and the gift that they are. And so we start in feeling entitled. I'm going to look elsewhere. I'm going to do something different with my life. I'm not going to give myself to those people. I'm not going to help them. Let them help themselves. And so we, in a spirit of entitlement, think, I'm just gonna leave this. And greed takes over. I'm gonna get my love somewhere else. And sometimes that takes people right out of their relationships. Parents leave children. Spouses leave spouses. Children leave their parents, or parents leave their kids. Happens both directions. And so much of it is the spirit of entitlement. I deserve better than this. So I'm going to go find it. Sometimes people leave literally. Sometimes people leave in other ways. Maybe it's chasing after porn rather than devoting ourselves to the person that God put in front of us. Maybe it's through hobbies. Maybe it's through being a workaholic. And there becomes this abandonment of the gift. Why? Because we forget the gift that God has given in these people. So many different things. We can forget about the abundance that we live in. I mean, it is a reality that the abundance that we have in our lives is greater than at any time in human history. Just the abundance, the amount of stuff that we have. That God has really just poured out blessing upon blessing and more after more, to the point where we're choking on it at times. And then we just live in this entitlement. Dude, I deserve an upgrade. Right? My car, my phone, my house, whatever it is, right? It's like, I deserve an upgrade. And so we start to feel entitled to these things. Rather than recognize, no, everything that I have is a gift from the hand of the Father.